Good morning, everybody.
Hi,
Oh,
Pete.
Nathan's note taker's requesting to record. Oh, that's Nathan's recording us, Paul. That's exciting. Hello, Nathan, Suzanne, Kimberly, Andrew, James, Galena, John, John T, Jenny, Murray, Kim Carney, Tom Hunter, Aaron Ramirez, Nathan Fleming. Hello, everybody. Good morning. How the devil are you all? Give me a little wave if you've been brave enough to put your camera on. There we go. Oh, look at all the brave people with the cameras on. Couple more to let in. I'll let those guys in. Oh, Murray Noble, the man, the myth, the legend in his fancy CBD office. Right, guys. Thank you so much. Adding another one in. Cool. I will crack on. Welcome to Recruitment United webinar number 14 or 15. I'm not entirely sure. I'm going to call this a special one, Paul. Can I call it a special one? Call it,
Okay,
no, no,
can do.
no, no, no. I'm going to call it, I'm not going to ask you permission. I'm just going to call it a special one.
Cool,
So,
cool.
a nice, a nice thing happened a couple of days ago. I reached out to our very own Paul Tulip. I said, mate, would you do me a favor? Could you speak to somebody on the group who needs a bit of advice on reverse marketing? And he was kind enough to give that person. He said he was going to give him 15 minutes of his time. He gave him 45 minutes of his time because that's just the generous soul that he is. And I said to him afterwards, I said that was, I spoke to the person, got the feedback, and the feedback was phenomenal. So they got a lot out of it and learned a lot. So I asked Paul if he'd be kind enough to speak to this little group because Paul is pretty accomplished on the reverse marketing side. He's got it down to a fine art. I think over the years that he's been in business, he's converted about, oh no, 40% of his business has originated from reverse marketing. So I think that's a pretty decent start. There will be a lot of people on here who do reverse marketing with lower results. There will be people on here who don't even do reverse marketing, myself included. Paul's agreed to come on and let us know what he's learned and taught himself over the years. Mate, they just keep coming. Bloody hell, we're hitting 30. It's going to be Greg Savage numbers soon. It really is. Thank you, Paul, on behalf of Recruitment United. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for volunteering your time. Guys, this is not going to be any kind of fancy, there's going to be no slides. It's just a friendly fireside chat amongst friends. Paul has made it perfectly clear that he doesn't want questions during the presentation because clearly he's going to be totally focused and in the zone, doesn't want the distraction. So if there are any questions, just whack them in the chat and we'll cover them off at the end. And on that note, over to you, Mr. Paul Tulip.
Thanks, Pete. Hello, everybody. Can't see everybody's faces, but yeah, thanks for joining. Yeah, we'll do some questions at the end. Just want to start by saying that what I'm about to tell you might not be a one-size-fits-all. It's just what's personally worked for me over the years. I'm sure that some of you are more sophisticated in your markets than I am and doing what you do, but just trying to share a few things that have worked for me and hopefully it might help somebody to make a placement that they normally wouldn't do. So give you a bit of background about how this all came about and why I reckon I'm all right. It is because I was just brought up doing it. It was my first task in recruitment. I remember when I started 20 odd years ago, Burns Carlton in the UK, they'd call it canvassing. You might call it reverse marketing. It might be proactive introductions, whatever you want to call it. But this is something that we had to do day in, day out. It was a very rigid place to work. I didn't know recruitment and ignorance was bliss, I reckon, because I look back on some of the calls that I would make then and just be like, I'd never do that now because I'd be thinking 5 steps ahead as the consequences might be of getting that wrong. But back then I didn't care. Neither did everybody else. We were all in it together. There was a big room of people all on the phone, 9 o'clock, golden time. For 3 hours, we'd be doing this every single day. 8:30, we'd sit down, we'd have our to-do list out that we'd written the night before. Our manager would go through it with a fine-tooth comb and we'd have to get on the phones 9 o'clock, golden hour, 9 till 12, 12 till 1, you'd interview candidates, 1 till 2, you'd have your lunch. If you hadn't got your send out on the morning from your reverse marketing activity, you'd have to do it again for 2 o'clock till 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You'd be smashing the phone. And as soon as you got your send out, what we'd call it, or a client candidate meet, you'd be like, right, I've done it. I'm off the hook. I can start working on my vacancies, writing adverts, doing your admin, whatever it is you needed to do. So we were living and breathing doing this back in the day. It was before LinkedIn, it was before social media or anything like that. So the way that we used to do it is that we would interview candidates every single week. We'd have to interview 5 candidates face to face. We were in North Yorkshire, up in Harrogate. People would travel far and wide. It was a competition between the team as well. How far could you get somebody to come in and meet you? You know, they might travel from, you know, London, 4-hour drive up to Leeds or up to Harrogate to come and see you. So the idea was that if they're going to invest that time to meet you face to face, if you haven't got anything for them right then, in terms of the job that you're working on, or in terms of an opportunity, it'd be like, well, let's meet them halfway and let's get proactive on their behalf. So out of the 5 candidates that you met face to face that week, you'd have to pick 2 that you were going to do canvassing for. So you'd pick them based on who interviewed the best and who you got that connection with and who was up for it. I'll talk to you about how you pick your candidates in a minute, but we would get these candidates on the hook and we'd say, listen, thanks for making the effort today. Really appreciate you investing this time. Just want to let you know that if in 4 weeks' time I haven't managed to get you an opportunity, I just want to let you know that, in my opinion, doesn't make you a bad candidate. Doesn't make me a bad recruiter. Just means that there's hiring managers out there not ringing me every day asking for somebody like you right now at your price point. So it's not a bad thing. So let's just get that out there. Don't feel bad if I don't get you an opportunity. So you're setting their expectations that nothing's going to happen. But those ones that you really did connect with and you thought they had something about them that are going to represent you well out in the market, you'd say, listen, something I can do for you. It's a really good technique, but you need to meet me halfway. What I'm willing to do is get proactive on your behalf. I interview hundreds of people every single year. I only place about 10% of them, so the likelihood of me getting you a job is very slim. But if you're willing to work with me and meet me halfway and think about some organizations that you feel you could add significant value to, I'm willing to get on the phone on your behalf and speak to the world about you. I'll sell the dream, yeah? But you need to tell me what those organizations look like. So they would then go away and think about some businesses that they feel that they could add value to. I'd say you need to think of it as 2 lists. Your dream job list, and if you haven't got one, I'm embarrassed for you. Everybody should have a dream job list. Your second list is you need a job list. If I absolutely had to get a job and you had to put your neck on the line, which companies am I calling that would hire you, and why? What are the reasons? Give me my sales pitch, yeah? So they'd go away and do that mini marketing plan and they'd love it. They go, oh, it sounds very refreshing, Paul. I've never had this before. That's really great. And we'd say, yeah, absolutely. Well, it's a win-win for us both, yeah? I might be able to speak to people I already know about you for sure. But, you know, on the flip side of that, you're my door opener, yeah? You're the reason for the call, because I'd never call up someone and say, hey, we work in recruitment. You hire people. Let's talk. It's not what we do, all right? So I get them on board, get them on the hook, and they'd be like, right, okay, I'm up for this, yeah? So you set the scene, you explain how it works. What you need from them, and this is just all the stuff I used to do. I'm going to come up to the stuff that I do nowadays and how I've tweaked it, but I'm just trying to give you an idea of where it came from, right? So you'd get them to do an IGS, which is an interest generating statement, 4 or 5 bullet points that's going to get somebody on the hook. It's not going to reveal who they are, where they work. It's not going to be, if I rang the next door neighbor, they wouldn't go, that sounds like Chris Smith. It has to be vague, right? It has to be the sector they're in, the results that they've had. It has to be something like a career tombstone, 4 or 5 bullet points that if it lands on the desk of an MD as a letter, they're going to go, this guy looks mustard. I'm going to interview him, yeah? So that I'd get them to go away and I'd get them to write their IGS. And that would be my ammunition. Then what I'd do is I'd go into the admin office and we didn't have like, you've all got your ways of getting your numbers now. We didn't have like all the screening, scraping, whatever it is that you call these lusher. I don't know what you're all talking about, but we didn't have anything like that. So we used to go into the admin team and go, right, I've got this candidate who works in sales within printing, yeah, in the printing sector. So I need printing companies in the Northwest turning over 100 million. Get me the list of the companies. And we just get the landline and we'd get the name of the HR director, CEO, whoever it was, a decision maker, yeah? And then that would be our canvassing. That's where we're selling the dream. So between 9 and 12, that's us. We're ringing them about this. And they'd need to have that IGS slick. You'd need to learn that IGS. So operations director, Alan Rigglesworth, at any point in the day, would come up to you and say, who are you getting your send out with today, Paul? And you'd say, I'm getting it out with Steve Smith. Why? And you'd have to go through, because he's this, and this. How can he add value to the company, Paul? Because he's done this, and this. So you'd have it slick. You'd have to learn it. You'd have to be passionate about it. And obviously, if you've not met these people face to face, then I wouldn't recommend ever doing this with somebody that you've not met face to face. Yeah. So some of the examples of the IGSs that we used to get were, you know, they'd write them for you and you tweak them. We had this one candidate who was, you know, very experienced in the hotel sector. So he'd write, I'm a highly energetic, dynamic, MBA educated general manager with international experience in Asia, Middle East, and Europe across all demographics. I've got an excellent theme park background and experience in 4 or 5-star volume leisure sector. Bang, bang, bang. These are the things that I've kept from 20 years ago. And you have all these little things. You're delivering major capex for multi-million investment schemes and complicating renovations. And this would be your sales ammo, right? So you'd be finding these decision makers, selling the dream, yeah? I'll tell you a story. There's this girl called Nikki Jones, an absolute legend that worked with us. Her dad used to clean the offices, yeah? And her dad was talking to our ops director, Alan Brigglesworth, and said, what is it that you guys do? We do recruitment. How do you work? What do you need to do to work in recruitment? You just need to be able to talk. And he's like, well, you should meet my daughter. She's a hairdresser. She never shuts up. So Nikki came in for an interview, absolutely blew Alan away and just like, you know, excuse the pun. And she said, like, I want to work for you. I can do it. I don't stop talking. I can sell the dream. But she didn't know anything about business. She was absolutely clueless. So when she went in one day to the admin team to get this list together, goes, Sally, I need a list. I've got a sports marketing person. I need sports businesses, leisure businesses, northwest of England, turning over $100 million, £100 million. So she gets this list and she's just banging through it, grinding away. And we all listen to her every day thinking she's just mint. She doesn't care whatever anyone says. She doesn't care. So we all had that mentality. We just didn't care. We're making 100 calls a day. So you're failing all the time. So it didn't really matter. And I remember one time we listened to her and she was just asking, she said, excuse me, it's Nikki Jones calling here from Burns Carlton. Can I speak to Alex Ferguson, please? We all looked over and we're like, Alex Ferguson. So she's ringing Manchester United because she had no idea who Alex Ferguson was. No idea. She didn't even read the company Manchester United. And the lady was like, I'm sorry, but he's not actually available at the moment. Can I ask who's calling? It's Nikki Jones from Burns Carlton. I'm calling to speak to him about a candidate that I believe can add significant value to the organization. And she's like, well, okay. Well, and she blagged it. She got through. She eventually got through to his PA, who then put him on. Nikki's speaking to Alex Ferguson about this candidate. He downward delegated her to marketing and ended up having a conversation with the head of marketing and placed the guy eventually in the team at Manchester United. Now, if she was me, I'd have been going, I'm not ringing Alex Ferguson from Manchester United. There's no way that's happening. But she just didn't care. And that's what that environment, like, if you guys have never worked in that environment, then this might all feel a little bit like, you know, you might be a bit anxious about it. And I would be now, if I've never done this before, I'd be like worrying about the consequences of what somebody's going to say. But it was that breeding ground of just not giving a shit and just going into it, guns blazing. All you needed to do was get your send out and you could move on, relax, chill out. You had to get 5 a week. So 1 a day was all that you needed. So that's how we used to do it. And that's where I've come from, right? But I understand that that's not the world that we live in right now. And I understand you might not be doing that. People aren't in the office all the time. You don't get landlines like you used to, but you know, we'll talk about the modern day version of what I'm thinking of you guys can potentially do. So first off, you need to get the right candidate. Yeah. It all starts with the candidate. You have to have met them face to face. If you can't sell the dream on this person, you're not going to be able to do it if you've not met them face to face. And if you get called out on it and the potential client says to you, what you know, where did you meet them? And you haven't met them, it's just not a good look. So only do this with people that you've met, in my opinion. Then find out, can they interview? Yeah. Are they going to represent you quite well? Do they articulate themselves well? Are they results driven? Yeah. How do they present? How do they look? Do reference checks on their behalf. Yeah. A lot of people question why we did this. We always used to do reference checks on people before we talked to anyone about them. The reason was behind the scenes is we wanted to speak to 2 decision makers, yeah, because we wanted to ring them and sell the dream and get them as a client. But it was a good look because if we were ringing about these people, you could say it's another piece of your ammunition. Listen, I've done a couple of reference checks on this candidate and he stacks up. When I met with him, he blew me away. It was absolutely fantastic. And I thought, is this guy full of shit or is he the real deal? You know, you won't speak like this, but I'm just trying to give you an idea. So you get the reference checks done on their behalf. You're telling the client, I've checked him out. He's good. And obviously you wouldn't be doing those reference checks with people that they're currently working with. But you'd say, listen, is there anyone that's going to sing your praises on your behalf that I can speak to? And then if I do get the opportunity to send this CV, I'm not only going to send the resume, you're going to send 2 glowing references on your behalf. You're going to look like a king. Oh, yeah, I can do that. So-and-so I used to work with. He'll say good things about me. Yeah, of course he will. Anyway, so get your reference checks done if you can. Or make sure you're not representing somebody that's going to make you look bad down the line. So choosing the candidate's the most important thing. No point in doing it with a candidate who's interviewing everywhere. Yeah, I've got 5 or 6 things on the go, Paul. Well, that's no good to you, because by the time you get back to him, he's probably going to get a job elsewhere. Then you're going to have got a client on the hook. This sounds great, Paul. Can't wait to meet him. Sorry, he's gone off the market. Just makes you look bad. So you've got to get it with the right candidate who's at that right point of the career, right price point. You don't want someone who's really expensive, because the chances of you going and landing on someone at 300K is not going to happen. So I would say in the Australian market, your ideal price point is probably 100 to 150K. Yeah, that would be the price point I would say for doing these. And make sure they're available. Yeah, make sure they can interview. I'm going on annual leave for 3 weeks. I'm off to Bali next week. No point doing that. Has to be somebody who's going to be there, ready to go, locked and loaded, up for it. No annual leave coming up. If you've got somebody that's already looking for a job, then that could be good on the one sense. But as I said before, you are going to be potentially going into an area there where they've got 5 or 6 other opportunities that they're looking at. On the flip side of that, they're sat at home waiting for you to give them a call, and they'll be out there this afternoon to go and interview. So that's a good thing. A good thing about them also being readily available is that when you're selling the dream to the client, you can talk about, listen, this might not be a permanent thing for you. She could come in and do a consultancy job for you. Might be an interim role that we're talking about. So there's 2 sides to that. Be careful with the type of job title that you're going to go for a candidate. If it's a really everyday job title, your chances are when you do get somebody on the phone, and we'll talk about that in a minute, say, oh, we've already got one of them. So then it's an instant block. We've already got one of them. So, there's ways you can get around that and saying, great, it's be a good opportunity for you to benchmark then. It's a free service, costs you nothing but a bit of time. Yeah, you've already got a finance director. How good do you think they are? Well, I've had my doubts about them. All right, well, if nothing else, you might meet what I believe is one of the best in the market and feel that your guy's actually not as bad as you think he is. Oh, yeah, that's not a bad idea. I'm happy to have a coffee with him. Of course you are, Steve. Right? So it's just finding those objections and getting locked and loaded so you're ready. If you've got a candidate who's revenue generating, yeah, that's a really good plus point, because if anyone says to you, we're not hiring right now, we've got a freeze, then if you've got someone who generates revenue, why wouldn't they meet them? Particularly in sales, there's always a budget for a good person, right? If he's going to make the company money, or if he's had an impressive result for a company through tough times. If, I work in retail quite a bit, and they'll say to me, it's tough out there at the moment, Paul, we're not really looking to hire. And I'll go, well, you probably need people that have traded in a tough market, don't you? Oh, well, yeah, I suppose so. Well, let me tell you about this candidate. Yeah, he was at Kmart when they were in the shit, and this is what he did, and this is the value that they bring. And if you don't get them, you competition might. Yeah, you've put a little bit of, get a bit of hustle into it. So if someone saved money for a company or made money for a company, that's a good candidate to go out with. If they've created their last role, that's an even better one. That's the dream. Client says to you, oh, no, sorry, we haven't got any roles at the moment. Say, no, his last role actually he created himself. He actually got a meeting with one of the key decision makers in the business, sold the dream, and this is what he's done. He's been there 3 years, blah, blah, blah. So candidates, really important. Make sure you get the right one, yeah? Then you're going to ask that candidate, right? Because we don't have lists, and lists that I told you about where I went through and spoke to Sally and said, give me this list. We don't have them anymore. I'm sure there's other lists you can get from modern day companies out there. But your list that I think are going to be the best benefit for you is the ones that you get your candidates to do, yeah? So you're not going to do 100 calls a day on doing this. You're going to do 5 or 10 a day. Or you might do 5 or 10 a week. If you're doing none at the moment, do 5 or 10 a week, yeah? Maybe just choose one candidate who ticks as many boxes as we've just gone through as possible. You're going to ask them for 2 job lists. One is your dream job list, yeah? If I said to you, if I rang you next week and said, I've got an opportunity with this company, which company is it that you're going to be like, oh my God, that's my dream job, yeah? And have a think about it, because if they're on the open market and they haven't started thinking about that, then educate them as to, well, now's your time. This is when I spin redundancy as a really positive thing with people. Like, when was the last chance you got to really take hold of your career and think about what you're going to do? Not very often, is it? You get tapped on the shoulder and before you know it, you're in a new job, but you've never really had that opportunity to think about what you want to do. So now's the time. If you're made redundant, or if you're in go mode and you're talking to recruiters like me, then really, put a layer of thought into it. What's your dream job? And whilst you're looking at your jobs that you're probably going to get and your most likely ones, then just at least do yourself a favor and say you did have a crack at it. So in 10 years' time, you're not regretting never going for something that you really wanted to go to. So that gets candidates really excited, because you want these guys on the hook. Yeah, if you're going to go out and sell the dream for them, you're going to want them to be like, this guy's good. Like, because at the end of the day, if you don't place this person, and this is where I get a lot of my work from, they'll remember the process and they'll be like, Paul didn't place me, but I loved what he did for me because I went to see Corn Ferry, I went to see Hydrix, I went to see Egon Zender, and because I didn't fit what they wanted right there and then, I never heard from them again. But Paul took the time to talk to me about maybe getting proactive on my behalf because I know them candidates are going to land a good job. So that's another reason why you might want to do this with somebody. It might be even more senior than I said. It might be a 2 or 3 or 400k candidate that's going to be a good door opener, but they're also going to end up in a CEO or a hiring decision role in the future. And guess whose call they're going to take when you ring them and congratulate them on the new role? It's probably more likely you that's done a bit of work on their behalf that might not have led to anything, but they'll enjoy the experience and you'll get to know each other through that process as well. So get them to have a think about their dream job. Yeah. Might just be that you know somebody that works for a company and you can start to have a conversation. Then they need to do the other list. Yeah. They need a job list. So if you've got if you're redundant or you're desperate to leave because you hate your boss and you can't stand going to work, it's affecting your mental health. This is your need a job list. Yeah. Think about organizations that are going to snap you up. Yeah. And why are they going to snap you up? I need you to come back to me with your IGS, your interest generating statements, 4 or 5 bullet points that I can go to a client and say, listen, this is why they should work for Kmart because this is what they did at, XYZ company. Yeah. So you need them to do that for you. They're supplying your ammunition in terms of the what you're going to say, and they're supplying the job list. Yeah. Then you can say to them, listen, there might be the chance that you give me 4 or 5 companies and I'll say, listen, you mentioned T2 as a business you'd like to work for. Why is that? Well, I just like the look and feel of the company. I like the stores. They're really good. Their product placement's great. I like whatever they say. That might then spark your interest to go, well, if they like them, maybe they'll like Nespresso or, they might like another similar company. So the idea is that they give you their five companies. You maybe build on that list. So then between you put together this like mini marketing plan of where you're going to go and talk to. So you've got a really clear idea. You're making sure they've never had conversations with these people in the last 12 months because that's going to make you both look bad. You make sure they don't know anyone there well enough that if you ring them, it's going to be weird that they didn't ring them themselves because you're going to look cheeky like you're just trying to get a fee for no reason, which you are, but you don't need them to know that, right? So you're going to get them to put these lists together and you're going to add to that list, yeah? And give it the way I get people on the hook, because I've got war stories of people doing this. I can say to them, listen, you might be sat there now saying, what's the chance of this actually coming to anything? Well, one of the girls I placed at X company, and I'll go through it and I'll say, this is how that happened. And she went to go and meet with them. And for the first time, I actually got to have a conversation about her and what value she could bring to the company rather than shoehorning herself into a job. It's a very refreshing conversation, don't you think? And they go, yeah, that would be nice, actually. Yeah, absolutely. And it might be that it comes to nothing, but it's a networking opportunity for you. It's a great way to go and open up and have a conversation with the company. So, if you get that list put together right, I'll add to it. And then between us, at least as well as you're looking at your other jobs that you're doing and speaking to other recruiters, which I don't have a problem with, at least you can say you're actually trying to create an opportunity rather than wait for it to happen, because the likelihood of that is going to be so slim for you and I. You can also then get them on board because they're loving you at this stage, yeah, or hopefully they are. They're thinking, I'm buying into this shit. I'm loving this. So get them to do your ambulance chasing on your behalf. And what I mean by that is that, you see people looking at adverts. I never do that, but we did back in the day. We'd have to look at who's advertising and we'd ring them and it'd be, we wouldn't have a candidate. So it'd be shocking, really. You just ring them up and say, I understand you're looking for a marketing manager. I know marketing managers. Can I help you? And you'd just be like every other numpty that's rang them that day. But if you go in with a candidate, it's much stronger, much more opportunity to get them in. So I get my candidates that I'm doing this with to do my ambulance chasing. I'm saying, listen, you're on the market. You're looking at stuff at the moment. They might not be, but if they are and they're an active candidate, they've got alerts set up. They know who's advertising. And I say to them, listen, before you apply, run it past me, yeah? Because I might know somebody there. And sometimes your CV can be one of 100 that gets lost. A young talent acquisition candidate might not see the value in your resume and she's got 50 odd calls to do that day. So you might go to the bottom of the pile. And if I know somebody, I'm happy to make the call on your behalf. And if I don't, I'll be dead honest with you, which I will. But there's times where they'll ring me and go, Paul, there's a buying role at the reject shop. Do you know anyone there? I go, absolutely. And I know that they try and recruit themselves directly. I'll touch base and I'll make sure they know that if they don't find anybody through their existing methodologies and networks, then I've actually got somebody. So, and then if I ring the client and say, listen, I understand you're recruiting for a homewares buyer. How's that going? And they say, we're actually, we've got it covered. We've got 2 strong candidates and we're not interested anymore. Then I'll say, right, well, I'll do the good deed. And I'll say, listen, I've got a candidate, Steve Smith. He's just told me about this role. I think he's going to be amazing. I'll get him to apply directly for you. and I'm just flying his flag. Make sure you don't miss his resume. He's A1, right? So you do it so the candidate doesn't miss out, but sometimes you get the opportunity to float them in. So getting this buy-in from candidates that you're going to work and canvas and reverse market, whatever, means that they'll do a bit of work on your behalf as well. Yeah. So they'll start to look and be the eyes and ears out there in the market for you. Okay. So 2 options as candidates. You're going to have one that's a door opener. Yeah. You're going to have one generic candidate that everybody likes the sound of. Yeah. They might be a bit wishy-washy, it might be a bit vague, but your client's got more chance of seeing them. If you're a retailer, it's a buyer, it's a area manager, because they're always wanting to build their talent pools in those areas. Yeah. So you can use them as a door opener. If somebody really likes the idea of them, then happy days. But if not, you've obviously then, you've really got nowhere to go. You then can look at the other option is a really niche candidate. So some of you work in real tight spaces where you've got these really specific sets of skills that, you might go and ring a client about, and they've either got the need or they haven't. Yeah. So if they haven't got the need, you just need to be prepared that then obviously you're going to have to try and do a bit of a sales job. Because if you've got somebody on the line, and we'll talk about the pitch and how you get them on the line in a minute, then the last thing you want to do is just get the door closed and you never speak to them again. So if it's a really niche candidate and they say, sounds great, Paul, but we haven't got that need right now, then we used to do this thing called the Columbo close. I don't know if you ever heard of the Columbo close, but it was a TV show in the UK, I think, might have been in Australia, I don't know. Columbo was this detective, and he always used to go in the room and see what all the shit was happening in the room, and he'd be trying to work out what's gone on and who's killed who. And he'd be getting nowhere, but then he'd go out the door, and just before he left, he'd open the door again and he'd say, just one more thing. So this was a thing we had to do. And the just one more thing was always that killer question that solved the murder. So we had to do this thing at work. This is 20 years ago. Columbo close. You had to get a Columbo close in every hour. You had to have one. So you'd get somebody like this where it's a niche candidate where the client's on the phone. They say, it sounds good, Paul, but it's not good. You go, right, listen, just one more thing. Yeah. Appreciate the time you've taken today to understand who I am and why I'm calling. But if I was to call you in 2 weeks' time, yeah, with a candidate that had a specific skill set, yeah, that really pricked your ears up and you actually thought, yeah, I actually want to meet this person. Tell me what skill set would be, because I'm doing a lot of searches out there at the moment, and I come across people that sometimes are great candidates, but they're not great for what I'm looking for. But if there was a skill set you want me to keep an ear to the ground for, you let me know. And you'd often get them saying, well, all right, if you've got a XYZ, then yeah, we'd always have a look at them. So that's your vacancy in a way. Then you can say, well, do you want me to actually take it seriously, come out and talk to you about that? And they go, well, no, getting a bit ahead of ourselves here, Paul. Now, just saying, if you came across anyone. So then if you weren't busy, that's your job. That's your job at 4 o'clock when your golden hours finish. You'd be like, right, I'm going to work that vacancy. It's not a vacancy, it's a lead, really. But you get your researcher, or you get, if it was you and you had to do it yourself, you'd be like, right, there's a bit of a sniff of an opportunity here. Let me go and find that person and go back to them. Say, hey, Steve, remember 2 weeks ago when you told me about that person? Well, I'm ringing you. This is the call. So then he's got nowhere to go, has he? He's going to have to see that person. So you often get, with a niche candidate, the opportunity to find out, well, what specific skill could it have been that would have turned your head? All right. So we've talked about your candidate, prepping them for the interview. So we'll go on to we'll do that after we do the pitch. So the pitch, right? So this is, in this modern world, I know that you haven't got these calls to make like I did in the volume where you didn't give a shit and you're just ringing 100 people. But nowadays, what I'd say is you can get your numbers, from wherever you can get them. But if you can't get the numbers of the people that you think you need to speak to, then I'd say LinkedIn or LinkedIn Recruiter is going to be your best friend, just to find out who that person is. And it's horrible to have to go and do it on LinkedIn. I would love to be able to find the numbers. And if you can get the numbers, that's the absolute number one thing. Get on the phone, yeah? But if you can't, then you need to be messaging these people on LinkedIn. And I would recommend that the people you try and target aren't HR or aren't talent acquisition, because I feel like they'd get calls like this every day and it'd be a bit much. So I would try and get hiring managers, and I'd be sending them a message and saying, I need to have a confidential conversation with you. If you can give me a number to give you a call on, that would be great. So yeah, so leave it open enough that they think it might be about a new job for them. So they'll ring you back. Never reveal too much in that message, because yeah, they're not gonna ring you back if they don't have a reason to. It's like when you leave a voicemail, you should never leave a voicemail with all the information on it, because they're not going to ring you back, because they don't need to, right? So you need to dangle that carrot. So you're trying to get them on the phone. This is the thing I have to stress about all this is, do not hide behind an email. You have to be on the phone, and you have to be, you know, up and at it. You know, do this on a morning or whenever you feel good about yourself. Stand up, get out there on the phone, whatever. You need to have this pitch rehearsed. So it needs to be something that you can really deliver with like confidence. Yeah. So let's fast forward to, if you've got this person on the line, yeah, then this is where you'll have your sales ammo, the IGS that these candidates have done for you, and you've put some thought into as well. So you'd say, I'm giving you a call today because I've recently completed a successful search. So you're subliminally selling to them that you do searches, you're good at what you do because you've completed a successful search. So he's already thinking, hopefully, subliminally, this guy's all right. I've recently completed a successful search, and I met a candidate that wasn't quite right for the brief that I was looking for, but we made a real connection. You know, when you just meet those people that you just got a good feeling for, well, he was that person. So I spoke to him about, you know, whether or not he was interested in any other opportunities. And he said, well, not really. I'm not actively looking, but if there was a couple of organizations that I'd love to find out if there's opportunities for, yours was one of them he actually gave to me. Or you can just say it's one. He only mentioned one company and it's yours. Or you can make it sound like there's a bit of a race on here and say there's two companies, because then he's already thinking, well, I better get him in before the other one does. Yeah. So that's how you'd sell it. You'd say you met him on another search, so you're not just like trawling candidates and specking shit out. You've met them, you've identified them, you've interviewed them, and you just made that connection. You just thought this candidate's, you know, worth making a few calls, a few select phone calls on his behalf, his or hers behalf. And you just say in that call, listen, I'm very aware that jobs just don't come out of thin air, and the candidate's expectations are clearly managed. He understands that if you guys were to meet up face to face and nothing came of it, then there's no obligation whatsoever. It's going to cost you nothing but a bit of time, and it's the time that he's willing to invest. And I'm just calling you today to talk to you about him and the skill sets that I believe could be of use to your organization. Then you subliminally like get these little bullet points of nuggets that they've given you into this conversation. Yeah. And what you're trying to do here, I'm gonna have to blow my nose, sorry. Bloody hay fever. How am I getting hay fever this time of year? Right. So all I'd say, right,
sorry about everybody. Sorry about that, everybody. Carry on, Paul.
We can edit that, yeah. So I would say, yeah, so you're really clear with the client. The expectations are managed on both counts, and you want him to, or her to, get this booked into their diary over the phone, right? You don't want to then send a CV. You are trying to get this meeting happening right there and then, yeah? You need that urgency. You need them to be like, if I don't book this person in right now, I'm going to miss them, yeah? And I know that's hard for you to maybe some of you get your head around, because you'd be like, surely they'd want to see the CV. Surely we'd have to talk about terms of business. But no, you need this person. So you go, okay, so I'm really keen to get this diary, this meeting locked in the diary for you, because you've given them little bits and nuggets and you've got a few buying signs. And if there's no buying signs, we can talk about what happens in a minute when they give you the flat no or make you feel like a piece of shit and you wish you never called them. But imagine they've got a few buying signs in there. You just go, right, assumptive close, go, and this is where you'd have to know about your candidate, right? Know when is good for them to meet. No point in trying to get them booked in for Thursday night at 5 o'clock if they pick little Timmy up from his dance class so he can't do Thursdays. So you need to get your candidate. You need to find out from your candidate, when can you meet? If I'm ringing and getting a meeting, when is the best time for you? Yeah. And do an assumptive close with your client when you've got them on the hook and saying, listen, in terms of availability, you can do next Tuesday or next Thursday. Which one suits you best? So you're just belligerent with it. They're like, well, oh, okay, well, yeah, Thursday. Okay, great. That's perfect. Or if they give you a couple of times and they go, well, I can do next Tuesday at 3 or next Thursday at 4, even if you know right there and then that one works, go, well, let's lock in both for the moment. Let's get them as a placeholder, and I'll just double check which one he prefers, just to make sure nothing's changed at this stage. Then you already know you've got another slot, yeah? And that's the slot that you take to go and meet this client. So when you get a slot off a client, you've always got to try and get one or two, a minimum, 2 or 3. If they give you one time for your candidate to give you an interview, and if you've never met this client before, always get 2, because then you're going to go into the other one and go, listen, good news is Steve can see you next Tuesday at 3. I'm going to be cheeky and book myself in for the Thursday slot, because it's strange that you and I have not spoken before or not met with each other. I can't believe that. I do a lot of work in this space, and I thought we would have had the opportunity to have met around the traps. So you might want to get the meeting in after the first interview with your guy, because you can go, listen, it'd be great for us to connect, full stop. But it'd be good to have that feedback face to face, and I can talk to you about how Steve did, Steve did on Tuesday, whatever. So be cheeky with it. Always get more slots, and don't be afraid to book yourself in. And if you don't feel comfortable doing it, then make something up and say, well, if they say I can do next Thursday at 5, go, that's strange. I'm actually not, is that in the office? Yeah, I'm actually not going to be 5. I'm going to be around the corner. So make it a real soft sell. So they don't think, you're just making up that you're making this one-off journey for them. Just say, I'm actually around the corner from you next Thursday. Why don't we have a coffee? Yeah, that sounds good. Great. Getting them on the hook and getting them booked in. Yeah. Finding out what days they're in the office, and then, getting a time slot, getting them in. And if they do then say, listen, it's all happening a bit fast, Paul, or listen, can you send me the CV? You can go, yeah, absolutely, you can send the CV, and I'll do that once we've got the meeting confirmed. I'll send it with our terms of business, if we can have that conversation. But as I'm sure you can appreciate, true skill sets of a candidate can't be identified on a 2-dimensional CV. What you're really going to get lit up about is the fact that you've met him face to face like I have, which is why I'm so passionate about ringing you today. And that's why we just want to, I wouldn't waste your time if I didn't believe this person was going to be a significant value to your business. So if they're asked to send a CV, have that one last roll of the dice to say, see, there's always those people you see on paper that you think, I can't wait to meet them, and then they let you down, and vice versa. So you try not to get that CV sent across, because you want them booked in. Yeah, you want them to give your email address and say, right, I'll send that through, and then you send the CV. You got your time already booked in with them. Your terms are attached, and then you're good to go. Your meeting's booked in, so they're going to feel obligated to go for it anyway. And if they go, well, listen, what's your fees? You might be expensive. Well, everyone's expensive until you've met anybody. It's not going to cost you anything but a bit of time. I do understand that you've got other recruitment companies that you use already, and this might be a good opportunity to benchmark them against how good I am. I'm giving you this A-star candidate. He's probably the best kind of person I represent. So if you don't believe he's better than what your recruitment companies that you're dealing with already are, then be safe in the knowledge that you've chosen a good panel. Like, whatever you might need to say, you just need to be aware that you're going to have a few people come back to you with real objections. Well, Paul, we've already got recruitment companies that we use. Yeah, of course you have. I've worked with other organizations myself. I wouldn't expect an organization of your size not to. Or they go, listen, send the resume. Can send the resume, but not going to give the best demonstration of what they do. Or they'll give you a downward delegation. You need to speak to HR. And you just say, obviously it'd be great to be introduced to HR at some point. Looking forward to it. I work with HR partners all the time. It's really important. But I really want to talk to you as a hiring manager about what value this person could bring to your team. Yeah. So you're putting it back on them every single time they give you a potential no. You're giving something back. Yeah. Right. So there's going to be, and we're nearly wrapping up now, and then you can ask some questions. So I'm sure you got millions of them, because I've talked at you, because that's just what I do. But the idea is that the better your candidate, the easier it's going to be, and the more you believe in it. The better the list of people, then happy days. If you can get mobile numbers for people, absolutely amazing. And, you're going to be ringing people that could be clients and candidates of the future. So even if they go, absolutely no, appreciate you giving me a call, but I've got no interest, and go, well, listen, what about you? Turn it into a headhunt call and just saying, listen, I get briefs all the time looking for people like you. I'm surprised we've never met before. Is there anything that you want me to keep you abreast of while I'm out there in the market doing what I do? Well, actually, Paul, I've had a bit of a think about that recently. And then that's another opportunity to get in. So if you get them opportunity to speak to these hiring managers on the phone, then there's a million different ways you can make the call of use. Yeah. Worst case scenario, they say flat no. You can go back to the candidate and you can say, listen, we've had a no from Coca-Cola. They're not interested. Right. Okay. Take it off the list. But the good news for the candidates here, and the thing that you can sell it to them, is say, you're not going to get your identity revealed at all. I'm not going to tell anybody who you are, where you're from. I'm just using it as a bit of bait on the hook. Yeah. And if a client says, yeah, this sounds like a really good candidate, Paul, let's book them in for next week. Or it sounds great, Paul, I'd love to see the CV. And yeah, happy to meet them, but just send that CV over, whatever it is. If you're getting a sense that they're a bit prickly about it and you're being a bit hard selling, then just dial it back a little bit. Go, yeah, happy to send the CV. I'll just double check with the candidate, obviously, that he's still in the same space as he was when we spoke yesterday. And then you're going back to the candidate and saying, guess what? We've had a nibble from Coles. Oh, brilliant. I was hoping it would be that one. Yeah, great. Well, what they've said is this, there's no opportunity right now. So it's just great. Worst case scenario, your candidate's gonna be like, well, he's working, he's like grafting his ass off out there for me at the moment. And 4 of the companies that he said he's called. 4 of them he already knew, 2 of them he didn't, whatever. So it's a BD call, isn't it? So there's no work like even if you get told to fuck off, ring them back and say, I just want to say thank you. Just want to say thank you because I get told to fuck off once a day and it's only 10 o'clock and you've done that already. So rest of my day is going to be brilliant. Like, thanks for that. Like, have a bit of fun with it. People are going to hang up on you. Doesn't matter. Ring them back and say, I think we got cut off. Have a laugh with it. Yeah. I can't stress enough that this just needs to be fun. I fucking love doing this shit. I would love to do this just full stop. Yeah. I place probably like 40% of my revenue comes from this. And it's not directly placing people, but it's opening the door. And it's like, we're not looking for that, Paul, but we are looking for this. Right, we should talk. I'll come and meet with you. Like, this is when people say the market's quiet, this is why I'm not having a bar of it. Like, well, the market might be quiet, but you as a recruiter, you're never quiet. You're either busy getting busy or you're busy on someone else's behalf. Yeah. So you just it's all candidate generated. The candidates will tell you what the market's doing, whether or not there's busy. You're bleeding for leads. You find out where they are, whatever. There's your other opportunities. But your good candidates are always going to be around. And if you don't know what a good candidate looks like, ring your clients, ring your top 5 clients and say, hey, if I was to ring you in 2 weeks' time and say I've just met this candidate with a skill set, what would it be? Now, this is not even a cold call, is it? It's your existing client base. Well, Paul, everyone's getting into AI at the moment. I feel like we're behind the 8 ball with AI. So yeah, I really don't understand it. But if you've got anyone in that space, let me know. All right, cool. There's a potential job. He's not briefing you on it. He's not getting HR involved. You're not talking about terms, salary, you're getting a ballpark of salary. But that's something for you to do, isn't it? That's a job. That's something, get your researcher or your offshore support to go and find, right, I've got AI looking about 120 grand in these areas. Find me a couple of people. 5 or 6 clients all say they're looking for the same thing. There's a LinkedIn post. There's a story. Put it out there on LinkedIn. I've had conversations with my existing clients and all of them are saying the same thing. They're looking for this skill set, keen to talk to anybody. Go and create an opportunity and make it happen. It's like the number one thing you should be doing. And I've done this for like candidates at 500K. I've placed a CEO like this for 120 grand fee. Didn't interview anybody else. It was just perfect timing. Like this is an absolute no-brainer, but it's scary if you've not done it before. You got to make the calls. You got to not give a shit about like failing. It's more fun if you're in a room together. Like if there's a few of you that are all shitting yourselves now thinking about doing it, team up and say, right, we'll go and hire a room, 3 or 4 hours together. We'll just do it. We'll laugh and we'll share each other's war stories. We'll share each other's wins, what worked, what didn't work. Find what works for you. And I guarantee it, if you do this, an hour a day, 5 days a week for a month, you'll make a placement out of it. You'll make money. You'll make money from it, guaranteed. And you might think there's no way it's happening, but you will. I guarantee it. So I think that's covered as much as I fucking know on this subject. I appreciate there's a lot of information and I do talk like shit, obviously, which is why I don't mind doing these calls. But some of you might be sat there going, oh, it's a bit too vague or it doesn't work or how do you get the list and all that. But this is just a general vanilla, everything I know about it. Some bits you might pick and choose and go, that would be great in my market. That wouldn't work. Or we'd have to do terms first or whatever. But you might even do a deal with somebody. You might even do a deal and they go, listen, we don't work with recruitment agencies, or you've looked at your terms, it's 20%. You might go, listen, I'm happy to do a deal. A one-off introductory offer. It's a win for me. It's a win for you. It gets this candidate an opportunity to work for his dream job. So you might drop your pants. You might not tell him that you're dropping your pants. Might be like, well, we're normally 25%, but we'll do 15%. You might be 15% anyway. It's all just smoke and mirrors. It's all just a fugazi. So I wouldn't worry about it. But you got to have fun with it. But don't do it with anyone that you think if you have a catastrophic conversation with that's going to fuck you up for life. Like, don't do it with like a client that you really want to be more strategic with. But also, if you're not ringing those clients and being strategic with them, then this is the opportunity to go to them with something a bit different and create some value in what you do. And I guarantee your candidates are going to love you for it. They'll end up in a job. They'll start working with you. You'll open doors. You'll get other jobs from it. You might even end up placing the candidate. Happened before where they've gone, you've stumbled across a vacancy. We actually are looking for somebody just like this right now, Paul. All right, well, I'm only giving you a one. I've only talking to you about one candidate, and you and I know a choice of one isn't a choice. Let me go and get you a comparison for next week. You've got the little vacancy on then, haven't you? To what you got Steve, he's already locked and loaded. Go and get somebody else in. Give yourself more chance. So just a million different ways it can work. But I hope one of you like gets a placement out of this shortly. And if you do, then happy days. Whew. There you go, Pete.
Right, Paul. So breathe for a second. Breathe. Hydrate.
Good.
10 deep breaths. So thank you. I have a question, if I may. And forgive me if I missed this because there was a lot of information there. But do you, it's not a cheat, but when you pick up a dream candidate, you think they're great, I'm going to reverse market them. Do you kind of glean information from them as to the types of clients that they would potentially want to be approached on their behalf and the types of clients that they actively want to avoid? Did you basically ask them to prepare the list? And forgive me if you covered that in the presentation.
Yeah, I do. I ask them to do two lists. One's the dream list of like your dream job, and two's like the obvious ones. So if I've got a buyer who's got a parallel experience with Kmart, his obvious ones are going to be the Just Group, Sports Girl, Q to Q, but like similar. That you know shit, you're going to get a job there. Give me those because I'll make those calls because that's an easy one for me. It's an easy one for you. They're not going to be sat there going, why the fuck would this person want to work at that? They know it, yeah. They add value straight away. But then their dream list is that 5 or 6 companies that they think, listen, I probably don't even belong there, but this is why I'd love to work for this company because I've admired them and whatever. So just get them to do that anyway. And it might be so far out of your sector that you're like, well, listen, I can't help you there, but if nothing else, it's been a good exercise, hasn't it? Finding out what your dream list was, and maybe you should go away and do a little bit of work on that. But yeah, you're getting them to do this list, but then you're building on it. So they might give you 5 or 6 companies and you go, right, see where your head's at. I'm going to give you 5 or 6 more. And you're going to program them to say, listen, there might be some organizations on there that you go, oh, I'm not sure about them. So-and-so worked there and he said it was a bad experience. So you go, listen, at this stage, just go and talk to people. It's going to cost you nothing but a bit of time. So you're getting them into that mindset of like, just get yourself out there, get the cobwebs brushed off. And it might be candidates that are actively looking. It might be some people that are really like, you know, afraid that their details are going to get out there. And that's when you just give them that assurance. Like at this stage, I'm just talking about an overview of you. Like I'm putting a bit of bait on the hook. No one's going to know who you are just based on what I'm saying. But yeah, the lists are done by them. Back in the day, we had the pleasure of getting those lists done. But I'm sure there's lists you could do now with all the stuff I read on this WhatsApp group where you could say, get me a list of, 20 software companies that do X, Y, Z in Sydney and get me the office numbers or whatever. Then, yeah, but you're best off getting them to do the list because then they're going to give a shit when you ring back and go, guess what? I've had a nibble from so-and-so. And they go, oh, fuck, brilliant. Where if it's a random company and you're peddling shit, they're like, yeah, I don't really know what they do. I'm not really sure, which was what we did 20 years ago. Well, I don't fucking know what these do, but you've got an interview. So yeah, you'd get like you, Pete, when you headhunt people and you say, who do you want to work for? And they go, I love, 6 Degrees, or I love this company. And then they're doing the job for you. That's who you're going to call first.
So as a follow on to my question, when they're giving you this wish list and they say, for example, oh man, I'd love to work at Country Road, and maybe you probably do work with Country Road, Paul, but if you don't, are you creating the illusion to the candidate that you already work with that client, or do they know that you're using their profile to try and open their door?
Yeah, I'll never tell them that I know somebody when I don't, because you'll get found out. So I'll say, listen, there could be companies that you give me that I already have relationships with, and that's easy. But there could be companies that I don't have relationships with, and it's a win-win partnership for us both, because you're the reason for me to open that door. And what I'm not going to do is speak to the wrong person at the wrong time about you, reveal who you are, and it ends up in a big mess. But, I do know of so-and-so, I do know the CEO of Country Road, but we've never had a conversation, but this is the reason why I'm going to have it now. So you'll let them know why you're doing that. Yeah, but they might mention the company and you already know them and you go, brilliant, but they have to do some work. What you don't want to do is a candidate to go, well, I'm happy with anywhere, Paul. Just let me know if you can get me a marketing job anywhere. I'm just happy for you to, shop me around. You go, no, too busy to be ringing every company I know every day about you. But give me an idea of where we can start from. Yeah. Give me a little bit of something to set the ball rolling.
The more the candidate is willing to do as well, as it's testing their commitment to the process as well.
100%.
Yeah, and also when we used to do this with salespeople, we used to ask them to commit to us exclusively and not like you said earlier, not apply for anything else. Or if they do see something that they like, let us know, and then we will do it on their behalf. And those reasons that you gave around if they apply direct, it goes into the pile with the rest of them. A talent person might not see the information that stands out or makes them stand out. There's a lot of good points, but yeah, you ideally want to get them exclusively and agree that list of 10 companies with them. And also, it's a good way of checking that you're not duplicating anything that they may have done in the last 6 or 12 months as well.
100%. Yeah, great point. If you can get them exclusive, like that's the dream.
Because you're putting a lot of work, or they're putting a lot of work into it, and you are also putting a lot of work into it. So you kind of want them exclusive.
Yeah, definitely. No, if you can get them exclusive, that's awesome. And yeah, you don't want to double check that they haven't, just say, listen, be really clear. I don't want to be eventually getting your CV sent to the client who's looking forward to meeting you and then finding out for some reason it's a red flag because you met with so-and-so 7 months ago. Like, you need to be honest with me. Where have you been? How active have you been? Your dream candidates are the ones who haven't really dipped their toe in the market for a while. And they're not.
Yeah, your dream candidate's well priced, and like I do a lot of work in IT. So if you get a female candidate, for example, that's well priced, got good experience and stuff like that, that often IT teams are looking for that diversity in there. So there's a few things that you will know about your own market that will make a candidate stand out from the rest. And you need something, whatever it may be, that's just going to pique that interest with the customer.
Yeah, great point. That's where you can ring your clients and say, who would be the most attractive person if I rang you, and they'll tell you. Then you go and find it. But if you're in the market all the time, you'll get those candidates you're like, fuck, I can place these so easily.
Yeah, you just get that feeling, don't you, when you meet them?
Mate, there's 2 questions in the box.
Yes.
One from Tom, who's now got a much improved LinkedIn profile picture. After you book in the interview, are you sending the CV, or are the clients meeting the candidate without seeing a CV at all?
No, great point. Should have made that point. Absolutely. So when you booked them in, you're then following up with a confirmation of the meeting. So you can either send it as a calendar invite, or an email with the time confirmed, and your terms of business are attached to that. So you do not want these people meeting anybody without an audit trail. So you need to have CV and terms of business. And then you might get a bit of resistance, because then for the first time, because obviously you've rang up out of nowhere and they think, what the fuck's just happened? I've got 3 o'clock next Monday. I don't even know who it's with. And then they see it and they go, fuck, 25%, Jesus Christ. Then you might get an HR call, but the meeting's booked in then. But no, you absolutely you have to have resume and terms sent across before they've met with them. Absolutely.
Question from John T. Do you ever question the why a company is on their dream list? Could this be a warmer entry into the client because it's bespoke and unique to that company, whilst illustrating they've shown a real interest in that company?
Yeah, so I absolutely do. So I'll say that, I've met with this candidate who's not really thought about their career before, because they've always been tapped on the shoulder. But I asked them, what would be your dream role and why? And this might be, so I've had one before where I've ran Cricket Victoria that I'd never done any recruitment with. And I don't really do anything in that world. I love cricket, but I'm, don't recruit in that space. This candidate was just a cricket nut. He was a digital marketing person. And he just said, no, if it was a dream role, it'd be for Cricket Victoria, because, I'd love cricket. So that's what. And I'm like, well, have you ever done anything about that before? Oh, I look on their careers website, but there's no, say, of course there's not jobs coming up every, make it happen, get on the front foot. So I said, I'll ring him for you. So then you ring him and go, listen, I'm ringing you because this candidate's not worked in sport, and I'm sure you get inundated every day with people that want to work in sport. But let me tell you why Cricket Victoria is so exciting for this person. He's played this, he's played that, whatever story he gives you. And you know what? 9 times out of 10, people love hearing that shit. You pump their tires up. You said that somebody thinks their organization is amazing. It's their dream job. Chances are they might just have half an hour in the diary with them just because they think, well, good on you. Why not? So yeah, I would always precursor it in, like, otherwise you're going to look like a numpty. Because if you're ringing somebody that's so square peg round hole and you don't recognize that, then the client's going to be like, are you mad? So you'd be going, listen, I'll just bear with me. It's dream role. Hear me out.
My final question before we wrap up. We're hitting the 1 hour mark. Question from a guy called Heath Brennan. He said, can you give me a call after the presentation? I'd like to give you some advice on candidate control. I don't know what that means.
Thanks, Heath. Appreciate it.
Right. I think that's it. I think there's no more questions.
Murray's saying no wig. It was here. It was here ready to go. There you go, Murray, just for you. Team you, $2. Be who you want to be.
Guys, I think you'll agree there was a lot of information there. Thankfully, we can watch it back on the YouTube channel, maybe play it at, just slow it down, a couple of whatever the word is, and then you'll get every word. Mate, you crammed a lot of information in there, mate, and I'm very grateful. And on behalf of Recruitment United, thank you so much, mate. Thank you so much for giving your time.
Mate. Thanks for the invite.
Thank you, Paul.
Mate, thank you, Paul. Thanks, guys. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Brilliant. Thank you.
See ya.
See ya.
Thanks a lot. Brilliant.